you need ground rules, because there are going to be times that some reading groups can be a little bit contentious, because all of us from different left backgrounds, we'll just say it, we come from different left backgrounds and we have different perspective on things, which means we need ground rules. And then these are some of the ground rules that I suggest you use. And I'm just looking through the comments right now, those who are watching, who are also in groups, check them out as well. I see Joshua Bradley is one of them. That's a good person to reach out to because they have a reading group with the Left Unity reading group. So even someone like that, reach out to and understand like what their ground rules are with that group. And yeah, as long as people listen to one another, actively listen to one another, and respect the person who's facilitating as well as, engaging in that conversation. Don't make assumptions during the group at all. Ask clarifying questions, because again, we're all here to learn. We're not here to say like, oh, Garrett's wrong. This is why you're wrong, Garrett. My idea is better than yours, Garrett. No, it's not that at all. I want to learn what Garrett's telling me. I may not agree with Garrett is saying, but I want to clarify as to what is being presented because we're all learning from one another. This is why we're doing this. And try to understand these arguments because, again, we're not only having reading groups to understand issues, we're also, and this is the other side of the education piece, we're also trying to really make sure we have our arguments down also, because as leftists, we really need to hone in those skills also. We need to hone in our critical thinking skills. We also need to hone in our persuasive skills, and learn from one another. I have learned from so many people who have made me a better person when it comes to like fighting the opposition or learning about other things, because without that, then we're not even going to move forward as well. Anything you want to add there, Garrett?
Yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily meant to be like a full business meeting, of course, but so you don't necessarily need to do the full Robert's Rules sort of thing. It's not parliamentary decision making or anything, but having a certain set of ground rules does help. If it's 3 or 4 people, you can have a conversation. If it's a room of 20 or 30 people, that's a bit harder. So, just out of respect and making sure that everyone gets an opportunity to talk, kind of follow a little bit of those sort of discussion rules that you might expect in a business meeting. One thing, I don't think it says it here, but one thing is to keep a stack, for example, that if people have comments, you can add yourself to the stack. So if you've never done that thing before, at the beginning of the meeting, you choose a facilitator, someone to kind of monitor the whole discussion. And they keep what's known as a stack. So when people have something they want to add, they'll ask, who wants to be on stack? You make a list of speakers and you put them in order. And then you say, okay, we're going to go in this order. And everyone gets a couple of minutes so that they can, provide their comments or ask a question or something, so that we're making sure we're going around the room. You could even do a progressive stack so that if someone has asked a few questions already, they can ask more questions, but they go kind of at the bottom of the list. If someone new comes in, you want to make sure that the new people get a chance to be heard before somebody who's already been commenting and talking all night, right? So there's different ways to do that we can talk about, but just be conscious. I think it's even a bullet point here, right? Be conscious of who's speaking and who has a chance to speak, and make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to participate and share their point of view.
Exactly. And if we go to the next slide, when we're talking about stacking and things of that nature, when we actually like run that session, we need to have a better understanding of what that means also. Because again, this is not a meeting, but we can do similar things like we do at meetings with the stack, having a facilitator, have a timekeeper, um, uh, and maybe have a sign in at the end of the meeting and everything. But like the facilitator is important. It could be the same person throughout the whole reading for that particular reading. It could be different facilitators each meeting also. I'm a big fan of that. That way you don't have like one person facilitating all the time.
But actually, sorry, AJ.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to jump in real quick there and say I would actually encourage having rotating facilitators each meeting, because part of the goal of these reading groups is for us to learn, and it's not just learning knowledge in our brains, it's also learning these skills, and facilitating in these leadership roles and all is also a skill. So it would be great for everyone in the reading group to get that practice at being a facilitator and being in that sort of role. And, just understanding how the process works and kind of being at the front of the show. It feels different when you're actually there as opposed to talking about it. So it's good to have the experience. And we can even use these groups for experience and learning about other things. For example, if you're trying to set reading groups or something like that, or I'm sorry, not reading groups, the reading for the next meeting, I should say. You might, several people might throw out ideas, and AJ had mentioned earlier, maybe you could use ranked choice voting or something to decide which one comes next. Well, now you're practicing ranked choice voting. That's not something we get to do in government right now, but that's something we can learn about personally. And as we learn about it in our groups, we become more effective advocates in our communities. Oh yeah, we do this all the time in our reading group, and it's really easy. Why don't we do it for electing the mayor or something like that? This is how we learn amongst ourselves, and then as we learn, we become more confident and in teaching others in our community about it.
Yes, and again, if you haven't caught on, when we're talking about this, what we're talking about here is not just running a reading group. There's a lot of other things to help each one of us to become a better person while we're doing this. We're also educating ourselves, not just about the readings, but to Garrett's point, we're educating ourselves and others. Like, here's how you facilitate. Here's facilitation skills you need to be doing. Here's what you need to be doing when it comes to a democratic decision making.
Public speaking.
Exactly. Even public speaking, there's more to this than just the reading. There's a lot of education that's happening going on. And this is important to have I'll get into it a little bit later on, but I digress. But so the other important thing, besides facilitation, is that the timekeeper, well, it's important. I mean, it's optional. It really is. But if you have a big group, say on a Zoom call of say 20, a timekeeper might be an essential thing, not just keeping a timekeeper for the person speaking, but a timekeeper for that Q&A portion or the discussion portion of your session and everything. So that's something to consider. So if we go to the next slide,